Freddy Krueger, the nightmare legend. Freddy Krueger is a fictional character, but his story feels real to many people. He first appeared in A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984. Freddy has a burned face, a striped sweater, and a glove with sharp knife blades. He does not attack people in the real world, he attacks them in their dreams. In dreams, Freddy is strong, fast, and impossible to escape. When people sleep, they feel whispers, scratches, and cold air signs Freddy is close. Some stories say he was a child murderer before angry townspeople burned him alive. But his spirit did not die. Freddy returned to haunt the children of Elm Street. He hides in dark corners of people's subconscious minds. The moment they close their eyes, Freddy watches with an evil smile. He loves fear. The more scared the person is, the stronger he becomes. People try to stay awake for days, but their bodies grow weak. When they finally fall asleep, Freddy appears instantly. He teases and plays with his victims, mixing dreams with reality. Many wake up screaming, unsure if the nightmare was real or imagined. Freddy became a global horror icon. Movies, shows, and games keep his legend alive. His story warns that some fears follow you even into sleep. Moral of the story: nightmares feel powerful, but facing fear with courage can break its control. Tom and the Animatronics, the night guard horror. Tom got a new job as a night guard at Freddy's Pizza, a small restaurant filled with cute cartoon posters. During the day, the animatronic animals danced, sang, and made children happy. But at night, the building became silent, dark, and strangely cold. On his first night, Tom walked through the empty halls with his flashlight. He thought one of the robots moved, but he told himself it was just his imagination. When he returned to the office, he checked the security cameras. Freddy the Bear was standing in a different spot, staring directly into the camera. A shiver ran down Tom's spine. He soon heard metallic footsteps echoing closer and closer. He tried to lock the office doors, but the buttons flickered and refused to work. The lights above him buzzed, flashed, and then dimmed to a soft, weak glow. Freddy's red eyes appeared again on the screen. Behind him, the other animatronics slowly stepped toward the office. Tom hid under the desk, shaking as the robots wandered outside. One robot gently pushed the office door, making it creak open. A mechanical whisper floated in his name. Minutes felt like hours as he waited, listening to the heavy metal breathing. Then the clock finally showed 6 a.m. The animatronics froze instantly, as if they had never moved. Tom grabbed his things and ran out of the building. He quit before the next shift began. The Kidney Thieves. Jake was walking home late at night after a long day. The streets were empty and quiet. A dark van sat parked under a flickering streetlight. A man stepped out and waved, asking for help. Jake hesitated but moved closer. Suddenly, the van door swung open. Strong hands grabbed him and pulled him inside. The van was filled with strange medical machines and blinking lights. Two masked people appeared, tying him to a chair. They whispered coldly, "Your kidneys are valuable. Don't worry, you'll be fine." Jake struggled, panicked, and tried to scream, but no sound escaped. Fear gripped him, and his heart pounded like a drum. A sudden loud crash came from outside. The thieves flinched. Jake saw his chance. He ripped free from the ropes and ran. Cold night air hit his face as he sprinted down the empty street. He called the police while running, hearing his own footsteps echo in the dark. Every shadow seemed to move. Every passing car made him jump. From that night onward, Jake never trusted strangers. He warned everyone he knew about strangers offering help. The dark van became a memory he could never forget. Moral of the story: always stay alert at night. Never trust strangers. Your safety is more valuable than politeness. The Haunting at Maple Creek. In a quiet town of Maple Creek, Texas, lived a young woman named Emily. She worked at a small diner and was loved by everyone in town. One evening, Emily finished work late and drove home through the dark, empty streets. The full moon lit the road, but something felt off. Suddenly, her car engine died near an abandoned house at the edge of town. Emily stepped out, trying to call for help, but her phone had no signal. She noticed a faint light flickering in the old house's window. Curiosity and fear battled inside her. She decided to check it out. The front door creaked open by itself, as if inviting her in. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of damp wood. Strange whispers echoed, but Emily saw no one. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the room, faster than human eyes could follow. Her heart raced. She tried to run, but the door slammed shut. Emily felt invisible hands push her down the hallway. Pictures on the walls twisted into horrifying faces that screamed silently. She found a diary on a table. It belonged to a family who vanished decades ago. The last page read, "They never left, and they never forgive." Emily ran, bursting out into the night. She never returned, and Maple Creek whispered her story for years. Moral of the story: some mysteries are better left alone. Fear is real, and curiosity can be deadly. The Masked Shadow, Ghostface. It was a rainy night in Woodsboro, California. People whispered about a killer in a white mask called Ghostface. Teenager Sam stayed up late watching horror movies, unaware this night would change her life. Her phone rang. It was an unknown number. A cold voice asked, "What's your favorite scary movie?" Sam laughed, thinking it was a prank, but a chill ran down her spine. Strange noises came from outside her window. Lights flickered, and a shadow moved across the yard. Heart pounding, Sam saw Ghostface standing silently, a knife glinting in the rain. She ran, hiding in closets and behind furniture as footsteps followed. Remembering the old cellar key her father had hidden, she unlocked the basement door and hid behind boxes. She whispered to 911, and the dispatcher told her to stay calm. The killer prowled, but Sam stayed still. Hours felt like minutes as rain pounded and lightning lit the windows. Finally, police arrived, surrounding the house. Ghostface tried to escape but was caught. Sam emerged, shaking but alive. Woodsboro would never forget that night the shadow could have struck anyone. Moral of the story: stay alert. Danger can appear anywhere. The Bronx Zoo Snake Horror. It was a quiet morning at the Bronx Zoo in New York. Families were excited to see the new snake exhibit, and children ran from one enclosure to another. Among them was 10-year-old Liam, holding his mother's hand tightly. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang. Staff shouted that a large python had escaped. Panic spread quickly. The python was massive, easily 10 feet long, slithering silently through the zoo grounds. Signs were posted warning visitors to stay calm, but fear was obvious. Liam noticed shadows moving near the gift shop and froze. The snake's eyes glinted in the sun as it moved closer to lingering families. Staff ran to track it, but the python was clever and fast, disappearing into the crowd. Screams erupted when it appeared near the monkey enclosure, startling animals and people alike. Zookeepers tried to catch it with nets, but the snake seemed to enjoy the chaos, curling around benches and slipping under fences. Liam's mother pulled him behind a wall, keeping them hidden. As evening came, the zoo closed early. Only the echo of footsteps and the python's hissing filled the empty paths. After hours of searching, the snake was finally captured in the reptile house, exhausted but unharmed. No one was hurt, but the event left a chilling reminder. Even in safe places, nature is unpredictable. Liam would never forget the cold fear of seeing a massive python so close. The Brothers' Home, a dark secret. In 1970, a small town near Boston opened an orphanage called Brothers' Home. Ethan, 13, was sent there after losing his parents in a car accident. At first, the building seemed normal, but the hallways were cold and silent, and something felt wrong. He met Daniel, a boy who whispered, "Do not trust the adults, they hide terrible secrets." At night, strange screams echoed through the walls. Ethan could hear children crying in pain. Some kids had bruises and burns. Ethan wanted to ask, but fear kept him silent. One evening he saw Mr. Harlan, the caretaker, dragging a boy toward the basement. Ethan and Daniel followed quietly. Through a small window, they saw children chained in a dark, cold room, crying and shivering. The boys realized the adults were secretly abusing the children, hiding the horrors behind the orphanage walls. That night, Ethan and Daniel decided to escape. They snuck past cameras and guards, hearts pounding with fear. They ran through the woods behind the orphanage, jumped a fence, and finally reached a farmhouse. The farmer called the police immediately. Investigators raided Brothers' home, uncovering the abuse. The caretakers were arrested, and the children were placed in safe homes. Ethan and Daniel survived, but never forgot the darkness that hid behind a place meant to care for children. Moral of the story: courage can reveal the truth. Even the smallest voices can stop great evil. Tyke the Elephant, a tragic escape. In 1994, Los Angeles, California, a traveling circus called Kingdom of Wonders arrived in town. Tyke, a 1-2-year-old elephant, performed in front of cheering crowds every day. The elephant looked sad and scared, but the trainers ignored her fear. One afternoon, during a big show, Tyke was forced to perform tricks with loud music and bright lights. When she refused a trick, the trainer hit her with a bullhook. Tyke panicked and broke free from her chains, running through the circus tent. People screamed as she knocked over chairs and cages. A security guard tried to stop her, but Tyke was too powerful. She ran onto the streets of Los Angeles, trampling cars and signs. Police and circus staff chased her, but nothing could calm the frightened elephant. Tyke ran for hours through the city, scared, confused, and exhausted. Emergency crews tried tranquilizers, but she kept running. News crews filmed the tragic chase, and families watched in horror on TV. Finally, near a park, Tyke collapsed after running for miles. Authorities shot her to protect people, ending her life in a tragic moment. The public was shocked and angry. Animal rights groups demanded stronger laws. Tyke became a symbol of the suffering animals endure in captivity. Her story reminded the world that cruelty and fear can end in tragedy. Moral of the story: treat all living beings with kindness and respect. Cruelty only leads to fear and sorrow. The Snack Man. In a small town, children loved a friendly man who gave out free snacks after school. Everyone called him the Snack Man. He smiled, laughed, and always seemed kind. Parents felt safe because he never pressured anyone and always stayed outside. One afternoon, a curious child followed him home to thank him properly. The house looked strange: dark windows, empty rooms, and an odd smell. The child realized something was wrong, but it was too late. The Snack Man revealed his true face, a terrifying grin hiding something dangerous. The child barely escaped, running through the streets screaming for help. People called the police, but when they arrived, the house was empty. Rumors spread that he had been living in the town for years, always watching and waiting for kids to come too close. His snacks were a lure, a trap for the curious. Parents warned children to never accept treats from strangers, no matter how friendly they seemed. The town stayed on edge, and children learned that even kind smiles can hide dark secrets. The Snack Man vanished, but whispers of his return haunted the town for years, a chilling reminder to stay cautious and trust instincts. Moral of the story: not everyone who appears kind is safe. Always be careful with strangers and listen to your instincts. The Real Dracula, Vlad the Impaler. Vlad III, also called Vlad the Impaler, ruled Wallachia in the 15th century. He was feared for his cruelty and strange punishments. He defended his land from invaders, but his methods were terrifyingly brutal. Vlad became famous for impaling enemies on sharp stakes, leaving them to die slowly. Travelers and merchants spread stories about his cruelty. Forests filled with impaled victims kept people away. He used fear as a weapon, controlling both his people and enemies. Vlad lived in dark castles with thick walls and tall towers. Shadows seemed to move strangely in his halls. He watched battles from above, seeing enemies trapped and impaled below, growing his terrifying reputation. Legends about him mixed with facts, inspiring the story of Count Dracula, the blood-drinking vampire. Stories said he could vanish at night, striking fear into anyone who crossed him. Despite his brutality, Vlad defended his country and tried to keep order, making him a hero to some. Travelers and soldiers warned each other, "Enter Wallachia at your own risk." Vlad's shadow loomed over forests and villages. Even centuries later, people remember Vlad the Impaler as a real-life monster who inspired one of the most famous horror legends in history. Moral of the story: power without mercy leaves a terrifying mark. History often blurs the line between hero and villain,